Welcome everyone back to weekly weather updates, and today we're going to have a look at the GFS, the GM, the ECMWF, along with the GFS and ECMWF ensembles, and then we're going to have a look at the Sudden Stratospheric warming that is happening above the Arctic right now. If we look at the GFS at the moment, we've got northerly winds, quite a slack flow, so it's quite cold at the moment, but we do have some wintry showers moving down parts of the north and the west, as normal. We've got a sort of precipitation shield around London in the southeast. That's really the only place in the last 24 hours that hasn't seen any snowfall. When I mean snowfall, I don't mean accumulating snow, I just mean falling out of the sky. So in general, most areas have seen some wintry weather over the last couple of days and the last week. Southeast and eastern England still hasn't really seen anything. There is snow showers around tonight and this afternoon, and they're petering out as soon as they get towards the east. So it's just an unfortunate situation we're gonna see, and hopefully in the near future we may be seeing some snowfall in the further south and further east, and more widespread as well. If we go through the GFS, high pressure does run to our north, as we've been seeing over the last couple of model runs. We do start to pull in a bitterly cold easterly wind. That's going to feel bitterly cold, but it's not necessarily going to be bitterly cold in the upper airs. Now, it's going to be -7, -8. However, because it's coming off the continent, you sort of see there's a bit of a southeasterly influence on the air, modifying it a little bit. The dew points are still forecast to be slightly too mild. If we have a look at it, especially in the east, they're just above freezing. And it's going to mean it's going to feel very cold, but it's going to still be maybe 2, 3, 4 degrees in the day. Dew points above freezing, so it's going to be very cold rain at the moment. Now, there is some model consensus that overnight, Monday night maybe, and Sunday night, we could be seeing some snowfall inland and over higher ground, maybe 100, 200 metres of elevation again. You may start to see some snow and some sleet. There's still a chance to see maybe widespread snow, maybe on Tuesday as the temperatures cool down a little bit. But at the moment, it's looking generally quite cold widely, and then those snow showers to pack in, snow and rain showers to pack into the east. Now, we just need to look at the high-res models maybe tomorrow, just have a look at exactly what's going to happen with that. But at the moment, nothing too significant, unfortunately, is going to be happening with that. Just really need to keep an eye on it, as it could develop quite quickly. But again, it's just something to keep an eye on. As we run through, the high pressure does retrogress back into the Atlantic, back up towards Greenland. We do see this cold plunge of an area of low pressure plunging southwards, and we've been seeing some of the models, not necessarily as GFS here, but this low that does drop down is being more developed. And there's a chance that overnight Wednesday into Thursday and throughout Thursday, sometime in that time frame, we will see weather fronts dropping southwards. As you can see, there's cold air and there's a tiny wedge of milder air, but it looks like it's going to be squeezed out as it drops further south with very cold air behind it. With that, we could be seeing a band of precipitation. You can see here that there is a band of precipitation here on the GFS. It's not as well defined, considering this doesn't develop the low pressure as much. But if we look on the other models, you'll see that low pressure does develop a little bit more, and we do start to see potential for widespread snowfall. Maybe not significant, but widespread bands of snow potentially falling from the north to the south. But it's just something you need to keep an eye on. You can see another area of low pressure potentially develops further south, but again, it doesn't develop too much here. You can just see there's a little bit of a kink in the isobars there, potentially getting a bit of a low pressure going. Beyond that, into next Saturday and Sunday, we do see an area of low pressure drop from the south. The main low doesn't drop on this GFS run, however, on some other GFS, GM and the ECMWF, it does drop down. So we could be looking at another potential snowfall event there, as we do have bitterly cold air ahead of it, bitterly cold air behind it. There's a bit more of a wedge of warm sector there, so maybe falling as rain as for a time, but it's still something to keep an eye on, as it's still over a week away, or 8 days away. Beyond that, we start to pull in quite a cold northerly wind. Now on this GFS run, it does break it down slightly, and we do have a bit of a milder influence off the Atlantic. That bitterly cold air doesn't quite sink down as quickly as you'd want, but we still get generally quite cold air over the top of the UK. We're pulling in northwesterly winds. And then we see a channel low developing, a classic channel low, which could be a major snowfall event further south. You see that crossing southern England. If we have a look at precipitation type, you can see significant snowfall there further south and east. Very significant snowfall. And if we go on to the snow depth, you can see it buries the southeast. But again, that's so far out. Again, we had one that failed earlier this week, so we just need to keep an eye on that, really. Beyond that, pull down a pretty bitterly cold northerly wind before the high pressure does slip away, and then we have areas of low pressure trying to come in, but still blocked out by the Atlantic. Unfortunately, we can't run on a bit further as the GFS 12Z is updating as I speak. But bitterly cold air to our north and east, low pressure sliding in from the south, trying to introduce milder air, potentially running into that cold air and producing more snow. If we look at precipitation type there, you can see if we run right to the end for updates, it's not going to be but yeah, no, this is it here, and you can see precipitation out in the Atlantic running. You see those contours, those yellow contours, that's the elevation level for 0 degrees, and you see it very quickly drops off to 0 as it gets towards the UK. So we just have to keep an eye on that. We'll now run through the GEM run. We'll do this a bit quicker as it does follow a very similar pattern in the short run. Again, forecasting cold air to go across the UK, however the dew points still just above freezing in the east where the precipitation is, unfortunately. Beyond that, the high pressure does retrogress back out into the Atlantic, and we do start to pull down that northerly wind. Again, that little area of low pressure potentially developing now on Thursday. As you see, just a little kink in the isobars, some milder air mixing in, potentially giving some lift, maybe some precipitation around. Again, I'm just seeing that Met Office of forecasting snow there, but again, it's very difficult to see what's going to happen with that. Beyond that, area of low pressure develops quite significantly, much more than the GFS. It does have a bit more of a milder wedge within it, but it looks like it's going to drop southwards. Not the main area of low pressure, but its colder air drops southwards. We see very bitterly cold air actually drops southwards, and towards the end of the GEM run, we start to pull in more of a westerly wind. But we had cold air in front of it, so we could have a bit of a snow event there initially before it turns a bit milder. Again, on this GEM, it's not too dissimilar to the GFS run. It's just that this area of low pressure is a bit further west, and the high pressure isn't as strong, so we're putting in a bit more of an Atlantic flow rather than northerly flow. But still, generally quite blocked and cold. And it is cropping up on the models recently. There is a chance we do start to bring in a brief bit of westerlies during the middle of the month, just in a situation like this, where it's very quickly will probably go colder again, but just temporarily we might bring a couple of days of westerly winds in again. If we have a look at the ECMWF, you see very similar patterns for the first couple of days, and we start to build that high pressure up towards Greenland. The low pressure sinks down. This is probably where the Met Office are seeing that potential snow event. ECMWF, the most reliable model, is forecasting a potential little snow event there. 850 HPA is very cold. Unfortunately, can't see precipitation on this ECMWF run, but that's slipping southwards, and then we start to pull in a bit of a slack easterly wind for the high pressure topples, and we actually start to pull in a generally quite mild westerly flow. Not very mild, as we're under high pressure, still quite cold at night, but in the day it'll be quite mild actually, maybe getting up to high single digits with that. So again, the blocking looks like it's disintegrating a little bit there, but we are potentially building up a Scandinavian high there with bitterly cold air, potentially starting to make its way further west. That's something we should keep an eye on with the potential for sudden stratospheric warming. If we have a look at the UK Met Office run quickly, you can see that area of low pressure does just drop down Wednesday, Thursday. That's where we could see potential for snowfall in the east, potentially with that. And again, we're pulling in easterly winds there by 144 hours on the UK Met Office run, which is probably looking like it's going to follow the ECMWF. So maybe we are going to see that milder wedge of air come in during the middle or the end of next week. We'll run through the GFS ensembles quickly. We're going to have a look at the 6 o'clock run because the 12 o'clock has not updated sufficiently yet. You can see generally quite cold all the way to around 9th to 10th. Then there's a bit more uncertainty. Some going milder, some going quite cold and remaining cold. Generally quite unsettled within that. If we have a look at the snow depth, snow, not too many snow, not too significant snow spikes, but a lot of snow spikes around. So hopefully, London, the southeast, and many parts of the country that haven't seen snow already will see some falling snow at least, and potentially some accumulating snow as well. Just something to keep an eye on. But I don't know how it can't happen in the next week or so. We don't see any falling snow in the southeast. If we look at the 2 meter temperatures, you can see generally quite cold, only around 2-3 degrees by the end of next week, where there's potential for those snow events to happen. So looking quite cold for the end of the week. Beyond that, just generally go up to maybe 6-7 degrees by the end of the run. But again, a lot of uncertainty with that. If we have a look at the ECMWF ensembles, this just generally shows them all compiled together, showing you the different scenarios. So this is the 5th of January at midnight. And we'll run through generally a lot of northern blocking. So the red is blocking and high pressure, and the blue and purples is low pressure. So high pressure to the north, low pressure to the south, bringing the easterly winds in. And as we run through, we get to the 9th, and we generally have high pressure to our northeast and our northwest, low pressure to our south, and low pressure just to our north on most of these. A little pocket of low pressure, that's it. Pulling southwards, potentially giving us a bit more of a cold influence, but generally remaining very blocked. As we run through that low pressure, moves towards our east, and we start to pull in a easterly wind on most of these runs, remaining very cold come 10th, 11th, 12th. So maybe that's ECMWF going milder on this run, on its latest run, is a bit of an outlier potentially. Beyond that, high pressure remains to our north, and we continue pulling in a bitterly cold easterly wind, or northeasterly wind, on most of these runs. A couple of them, this one here, potentially going a bit milder with more of a westerly influence. That's only 21%, remember. The rest of them are going generally quite cold and blocked. Even that one there is pulling a bit more of a westerly, and it's still blocked. It's just the blocking is not the right orientation for cold. As we run to the longer term, there's like more of a low pressure influence in most of the model runs, or most in the ensemble members, but high pressure still to our north, so it could still be very cold, pulling in a easterly, northeasterly. This one a bit milder, but still a bit blocking, so maybe some cold air further north. And then this one here, high pressure out to our east and our northwest, pulling in a westerly flow, battling against easterly winds as well. So just still remaining fairly blocked and cold for the foreseeable future. If we quickly have a look at the sudden stratospheric warming, you can see as we go out, far as we go out, it does look like at the moment there will be a split in the polar vortex, and you can see there by the end of that, I think the 6 o'clock run, various little lobes of the polar vortex all split up, just showing you that it's going to be splitting up, which is probably going to enhance the possibilities of colder conditions come the middle to the end of January. Lastly, we'll have a look at the zonal winds at 10 HPA, so this is where the polar vortex is. And you can see normally it should be around 30 to 40 meters per second, but at the moment it's dropping down, it's around 20 meters per second now, and will be dropping around 0 or lower than that. You can see CFS members are not quite going, they're recovering faster than a lot of the GFS ensembles are. GFS ensembles are probably more reliable in this shorter range, so those green ones there is more likely what's going to happen. Reversal in a couple of days' time, and then potentially going even more reversal come the middle of January. Potentially that's where we see the split in the polar vortex, and we're seeing very significant conditions with that. Some are going for a bit more recovery quickly, but most are going quite negative in the zonal winds, enhancing the possibilities of us seeing some colder weather. So generally, January looks like it's going to be setting up to be a very cold month, and hopefully we do start to see some more widespread snowfall. The cold air we've had around so far, it's been quite generally dry. We have seen some nice snowy images further north over higher areas, and where the showers are packed in, but generally the consensus is that not many places have actually seen a lot of snowfall. It's been very localised, so hopefully we do start to see some more widespread snowfall, as we've had about a week now of quite cold conditions, but not a lot of precipitation around. But a lot of frost, and hopefully we'll start to see some snowfall around soon. There's a bit of snowfall around tonight, so keep an eye on the radars tonight. You may see some flakes, maybe see some light accumulations. Here or there we see some heavier bursts. But again, I expect that in localised places. But anyway, thanks for watching, hope you enjoyed, subscribe if you're new, and I'll see you again for another video soon.